Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today is an exciting episode 50 of the podcast. And if you're watching this on video, the hint is already out, but I have a very special guest who is not a dad, but happens to be Lindsay Smith, my wonderful wife,
Oh, thank you.
the mother of my two children. And she is here to interview me about the podcast. And some folks have been curious about the Dadsigner behind the Dadsigner. And so, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. I'm curious, am I the guest or are you the guest today?
Well, technically, it's my podcast. So you are the guest, but I am the guest's guest.
But I'm in charge.
Always.
Yes. Okay, got it. All right. So, as I've been listening to your podcast, you asked the guests about their family. So, tell me about your family, Michael.
Yeah. So we have been married for 17 years and have two lovely daughters, Juniper, who is 11, and Story, who is 8, both of who were invited to be on this podcast, and neither one of them wanted to do it. We live in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and that is my family, our family.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were inspired to start Dadsigner? Where did the name come from?
Yes. So, it's kind of two parts of that question. So, Dadsigner started in 2015, after we had our first daughter. So she was born in 2014, and around that time, I was heavily involved with and following and engaging with the Cotton Bureau crowd. And I believe they posted about one of their designers and that he was a dad and they called him a Dadsigner. I was like, that is a really cool name. And so I Googled or I searched the URL and it was available. And so I snatched it up. And so I had to decide what Dadsigner was going to be. And so at that time in 2015, I started writing a blog about um, being a new dad, well-designed products. There was a segment, a blog series, I don't know which one you call it, but a blog series about children's books and how they, just like my favorite ones, and I would give a book review on these children's books and would make sure that the people reading about the review would know about how many different voices you would need to read the book, what I thought about the cover art, all of these things that weren't really like why anyone would write a children's book, but were just kind of tongue in cheek and fun to do. So the Dadsigner name started in 2015 when I bought the URL and started doing a blog.
And how has it changed since 2015?
Yeah, so because of the way I'm wired, everything must be monetized, which is very annoying for both you and my brain. And so while I was blogging, I was trying to do it every week and I would do all my own photography and write all my own posts. And I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with this thing to make it worth my time? In the beginning, those types of things are always fun, but then they get monotonous over time if there's not some greater benefit from it. And so as we were, one night as I was reading to Juniper before bed, started to notice that in all of the books we were reading, she was like pointing out the eyes in the different characters. And so I had this idea, what if I illustrated my own children's book for her about these different animal eyes? And so in 2016, I launched a Kickstarter for the first book, Eyes. It's like highly focused on the different animal eyes, and then it just has like their name. And so there was 10 different animal eyes in the book, and ran the Kickstarter, and it successfully funded. And then I had a ton of books, and yeah, so that's how it kept going. And then after we had our second daughter, Story, it became very hard to keep up with writing and posting and all that kind of stuff. And every attempt I made, I would quickly fail again. But if you make a book for your first daughter, you have to make a book for your second daughter. And since her name is Story, I made Story Book Eyes, and that book was again focused on different character eyes, but from storybooks. And then I wanted to up it a little bit, and so I wrote a little poem for each of them. My favorite poem, and Rocky Work would probably like this. I have a Cyclops in my book, Rocky. Not a blue Cyclops, but a Cyclops. And the poem is, "A blink is a wink for this kind of guy because he's sporting only one eye." And I thought that was the best thing ever. And so after I made Storybook Eyes, I didn't do anything with Dadsigner until 2023 when I was trying to figure out what to do about full-time work. I was in the tech world. Lots of layoffs were happening. My job um, wasn't what I wanted to continue to do, and so decided to reinvent Dadsigner as my design company, and as a part of that, start up this podcast, which I had been thinking about for a really long time. Very long-winded.
No, perfect. One of the questions you often ask your guests is, how do you balance work life and family life? So, I mean, I get to see the back end of how you do this, but I'd love to have you tell your guests how you do this.
Yeah, and I would love to follow it up by, if you think I do it well. I I always talk about this with work in general, is that I have a lot of really good systems and I work pretty quickly. So like once I have an idea, once I know the direction I'm going, I can design very quickly. However, as we mentioned before, I always have all these ideas coming to mind. And so I've made, like, one of the systems is this Notion database that is my entire like second brain, that keeps all of my, client stuff and all that kind of stuff, but also all of my ideas. If I have a random post that I want to write about, I'll like type it in my phone real quick into Notion and then like move on. I don't know that I balance it. I know that I don't balance it perfectly. I'm grateful to be self-employed, where um, I can kind of create my own schedule. And so, like today, first day of school, and was grateful that, well, you're really good at celebrating things and love to celebrate everything. And so there's become a new family tradition that on the first day of school, because the girls successfully made it through the day, we go out for ice cream. And so I was able to join everyone at 3:30 for ice cream at the local little dairy farm. And so like but then sometimes, like, it's 7 o'clock at night, bedtime's coming up, and we're in here doing this. So like the balance is kind of, there's give and take.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how you feel like I balance things. You probably think that I spend more time working or thinking about work than.
Don't project on me. I think you are so driven and so entrepreneurial, and I know your mind is always working on work, so then I trust you when you take off. And I'm not worried that you're going to miss something at work when you're relaxing, because I know you've taken care of it, if that makes sense. So I can trust that you're here to relax when you're here to relax, or you're here to be with the girls when you're here to be with the girls. So I think you do a great job.
Thanks.
So you've interviewed 49 different dads who are designers, Dadsigners. What words of wisdom or advice have you gleaned from them? Because I know you asked them about their parenting wins and missteps, maybe. So what have you gleaned from your guests?
Yeah. One is that nobody is perfect. No dad is perfect. We all have things. One question I asked early on is like, what is your biggest parenting failure? We've since softened it, but like, it was reassuring to be like, oh yeah, I've done that one, done that one. So I think there's 49 other dads out there that I've done the same things. And so, you know, it's reassuring to know that like we're all going through a lot together. I think the other major thing is, I don't agree with them all,
Hmm.
right? but it's not, the podcast isn't a place to necessarily be like, oh, I would never do it that way, because I'm not in their shoes. I'm not in their context. I wasn't raised the way they were raised. I'm not raising the same kids in the same place and all that kind of stuff that they're doing. And so it's also taught me to check myself on quote unquote judging how someone else, some other dad might do it, because all of us are in different scenarios. And so while there's a great amount of alignment where like, oh yeah, I've screwed up that same way, there's also a great amount of like, oh, I don't know if I would do it that way, but I guess I can totally understand why you would.
Hmm.
And so that's been something personally that I don't think I've ever shared with any of the guests. But yeah, it's been fascinating.
What has brought you the most joy from podcasting? Joy is my love language, so I'm going to ask you about your joy.
I think it's twofold. One, that the guests are willing to share.
Hmm.
It's it would be terrible to say like, if a dad cries on the podcast or gets really close to crying on the podcast, I see it as a success, but I see it as they felt comfortable enough and willing enough to be vulnerable with this audience to share something that brings them to the point of some great emotion. And so there's like a couple guests that I can think about over the last 49 where that has been the case. I think the other thing that has brought me great joy is getting to meet people that, one, I never knew existed before. And you know, I spent like a week with a guy. He was just texting me today. Like, I consider him a friend now. And prior to starting this, I didn't even know his name. And so both the people like that and people I never thought I would get to talk to before. And so getting to sit down with, you know, some quote unquote bigger names in the design industry that like you're just kind of, everyone kind of geeks out about, and you're like, oh, he's just another human too, and he's going through the same dad struggles that I'm currently going through, and oh, that's interesting that he does it that way. So like those are the two greatest joys, is like when I do have the conversation, like running a podcast, again, similar, going back to like the blog conversation, running a podcast that isn't generating any revenue, isn't adding any value per se to a bottom line or income or the business, is taxing over time. But every time I have one of those really good conversations, it's refreshing, because since I am working solo now, it's really nice to talk shop with.
Nice. Along that same line, what's been the biggest trial of these past 49 episodes?
Feeling like I'm doing justice to the time someone has given me. So making sure that the episode goes out. Every one I've recorded, I've published. Like there's like an unspoken contract there that like, if we record, it will get published. And so like just making sure I'm being, you know, equitable and living up to my end of the bargain. People are taking time out of their day to come talk to me on this podcast platform. And yes, it like boosts their online presence, but like I just feel really responsible to make sure that that gets out there.
Love that. Tell me a little bit about the Dadsigner uniform. I chose to show up today with my black t-shirt and my hat on because I believe in every episode you do have a hat on. Maybe not a black t-shirt, but
I mean, it's very slimming. I don't know. It's a thing. Every episode I have had a hat on. Almost every day I wear a hat. You know this.
I do.
Partly because it became a nice accessory a few years ago that like became part of my like shtick, and also I'm balding. So for those two reasons, this, and similar with the black t-shirt. Why wear a black t-shirt? Well, it's very easy to pair with nearly anything, and it's slimming. So you get the real answer and the fashion answer.
Now that you've been a dad for 11 years, can you give any advice to new dads or new Dadsigners, new dads who are also artists?
No. I mean, I feel like I've brought this up on multiple episodes with lots of guests, but like it goes so fast. Like our Juniper is in middle school. She's switching classes and has a locker. Like I just wrote her a book 9 years ago. And so it's absolutely insane how quick it goes. And so, actually, your niece texted me the other day. She's giving one of the books out as a baby gift. They're great baby gifts. You can get them on dadsigner.com/store. Um, this is my podcast. um, and so, oh, anyway, yeah, your niece reached out. She asked me like, "Hey, I want to write something on the book and like inscription for them as it's their first time, first baby." And I've heard this a million times. I remember talking to Stevie Roger, a guest in the very, very beginning of this podcast about it. But the days are long, but the years are short.
Mm.
A good friend of mine, I was talking to him this morning. He just dropped his son off at college a week ago, and just the reality of the different season of parenting that he has now entered into. He said, I picked up my phone about 100 times this week and wanted to text my son just to see how things were going. I wasn't worried about him. I knew he was fine, but it's just a different relationship now. And he's like, he needs to be on his own. And so I finally got to talk to him FaceTime for like 45 minutes on Saturday. It was great, but like that, it goes so fast. So like these are the years where if you're going to make an impact in your kids and want to spend time with them after they finish high school, after they leave your house, like these are the years that matter to ensure that you get more than 18.
Mhm.
Because you see so many families where, stuff happens and they don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. I did make it about 4 hours before I emailed our daughter today at school just to say hello. So I will never make it with her as a college student. And she did not email me back, surprisingly. She's had her Chromebook again, she had it for like 4 hours and I'm emailing her. So what is something that you're excited about for the future of Dadsigner, the future of your personal work, the future of parenting, which we kind of just got into?
um yeah, I'm curious to see where the podcast goes. I think where it's come to today is interesting. I think um there's other thoughts and ideas that I have that could potentially take more time and effort and energy to do. So I'm excited to see what's next, although I don't know what that is. Yeah, honestly, the reality of the season that I'm currently in is I don't know what's next. Um, Being a solo designer is hard, and when it looks like there might be some drought ahead or some rough days ahead, you start to worry about providing for your family and all these kinds of things. And so the excitement level is like, how do I make sure that I have enough work to continue to provide, but not so much like, a month and a half ago, I could barely keep head above water. And so I think the excitement is every day is learning and trying to get to this point where I've figured out how to keep things a little bit calmer, knowing when to ask for help, finding that help. Um, because a lot of the people I know that I know would do a really good job helping, I can't afford. So it's like, how do I find the help that I can afford? But yeah, I don't know if that even answers the excitement question. But parenting, I'm excited to see the personalities of our kids continue to like come into their own.
Mhm.
They're each so different, uh, and each very interesting. And so yeah, I'm excited to see where and how that all
Hmm.
pans out.
I know you grew up in a household with an entrepreneur. Your dad ran his own business for a long time. Tell me how that affected your decision to become a business owner.
Yeah, um I don't know that like you always follow in the footsteps of your family, right? Like my dad's business, for example, was repairing um machines that cut metal, which means that there's a lot of um sharp metal chips and coolant, which kind of smells disgusting, is slimy. And if I'm not the type of person that loves to like slide into slime or mud, It's not my thing. And so I would go to work with my dad and I would see that. And we all knew there's like a family joke that like Michael was never going to follow in dad's footsteps in the business. But I think what it did show is like we never were without um anything, he provided for us and it wasn't like he was making millions of dollars. My mom is also super frugal, which helped. And so I think it showed me that it is an avenue. Now, I've been working professionally for in the design world since 2008. And so, uh, was that coming up those 17 years?
Mhm.
But the first 15 of those 17, I spent working for other people,
Mhm.
in-house design, short stint in an agency. Um, but I did always have an entrepreneurial bent, a business bent. When I was in high school, I started Mike's Motifs, um, where I was making logos and doing stuff like that. I was shooting photos. When I was in college, you and I teamed up, and we had the Smiths Pictures, which we did wedding and portrait photography for a number of years. 2012, we opened a small quilting fabric store, and you ran that for
2 years.
2 years, which was fun that you got to live into that dream. And I loved the business side of it. And so there's like always been germs of it. The co-working space that I opened in 2020 with a friend that is still in existence today, like all of those businesses, I think kind of, yeah, they were influenced by my dad. But I think the thing that stands out the most to me about who he is and how he ran his business is when I was in high school, he was the assistant coach for my baseball team all through high school. And I started when well, it was a small school. So I played like 8th through 12th grade. Um, and he was an assistant coach the entire time, which means that he was at the games that we had to leave at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. He was, at practice 3:30 every day for, 2.5 months. He made it to um, all my sports games when I played soccer in high school. Like he was at all the games. Like there isn't a time in my life where like I did a thing and my dad wasn't there. And so I think the entrepreneurship, and I think that's a huge part of what's been important to me as we've raised our girls is like, how do I create a life where, yes, I love work. I work super hard, but it doesn't get to the point where I'm working all the time.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my dad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to end this podcast like you end all of your podcasts so far. What has been your greatest parenting joy? And on the flip side, where have you learned the most through parenting?
I'm going to answer this in the joy in a really stupid way because this is what initially came to mind. We were on vacation in Florida uh in 2000 and this was probably 2021, 2020 ish. And we're on this family vacation. We're outside eating dinner and our oldest Juniper comes outside. She had a loose tooth. And she's like, Dad, try to pull it again, try to pull it again. And I remember pulling the tooth and weeping because I was so like happy for her. It's like this big moment and like all this kind of stuff. And so I don't know why that was the joy that came to mind, but pulling my daughter's first tooth, uh, there's probably something to unpack there. But anyway, I think the other learning has been how to engage the kids in the way that they want to be engaged versus the way that or like the thing I want to do, right? So like, hey dad, let's play a game. Okay, I love games. Can we play? We don't have to sit on the floor. And so like even a small thing like that where they're like, hey dad, you want to play a game? Can we play it on the floor? I need to like it's not that big of a deal. Just sit on the floor. Yes, it's gonna hurt, but it's healthy for you. You should be able to sit on the floor, all that kind of stuff. And so learning to engage with them in the things that interest them and the things that are going to bring them joy and lasting memories. We were having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I was just feeling really like down that I hadn't connected. I didn't feel like I was connecting with them. Part of it is, the ages that they're either at or entering into. But it was also just kind of like, I don't know. My head is so full at the end of the day. I don't know how to disengage from all that right now and enter into things that they will enjoy. And I think, like, we bought Juniper pickleball set, outdoor, like, little small net thing. And for like a couple nights in a row, we all played it, and everyone was talking. Like, all our girls were just talking about pickleball, pickleball, and it was really fun to be like, "Oh, we're doing this thing." And I didn't want to. It's not like we're playing competitively,
Because you could whoop us.
but I mean, I could. I slammed it home a couple times, but the joy afterwards taught me that, like, okay, these are the types of activities that matter to them. And there are things that are important for me to pass on to them. But when we're talking about like the everyday, what are the things that I'm doing to connect? I'm learning every day how to connect with them better, and um hoping that I am connecting with them
Mm,
long term.
awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Michael.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Um Question for you.
For me?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Should we have more wives give their opinion on how well they think their Dadsigner's doing?
No. There is a gift in knowing the truth and knowing when to tell the truth. So there's a balance there, I think, of yeah, I don't think we want to ask every wife how their husband is doing. That's a private conversation.
Thank you all for journeying on these 50 episodes with me, and now Lindsay. Got to meet her. She's awesome.
You'll never get rid of me.
Yeah, and I look forward to the next 50. If you have thoughts, ideas, questions, suggestions on what you would like to see in the next 50 episodes, I'm all ears. Let's build this thing together. But yeah, that's a little background on me. Thank you to Lindsay for coming on and doing this. No thank you to the girls for not joining us.
We respect their internet privacy.
Yeah. We do. We do. All right. Thanks so much, and I will talk to you next week.